Well, in a show of military might and strategic repositioning, Russia has embarked on significant military drills and asset deployments, raising the stakes in its standoff with the West. Our special report assesses Russia's strategic moves.
Amid heightened tensions with the West over the Ukraine conflict, Russia has launched the second phase of nuclear drills, showcasing its readiness to employ tactical nuclear weapons. In a joint exercise with its ally Belarus, Russian Navy crews are training to equip sea-based cruise missiles with dummy nuclear warheads, while soldiers from the Kaliningrad military district are practicing mounting warheads onto Iskander-M missile systems. Poland says Russia is deploying up to 100 nuclear warheads in the Kaliningrad Oblast, a strategic enclave sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania, both NATO members. Kaliningrad, Russia's westernmost region, lies approximately 260 kilometers from Warsaw and serves as a crucial outpost for Moscow's military presence in the Baltic region. Russia has also dispatched a naval group, including a nuclear-powered submarine and frigate capable of carrying Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles to the Caribbean. The arrival of these vessels in Cuba, in US's backyard, is seen as a direct message to Washington amid the escalating tensions. Cuba says the Russian vessels are not carrying any nuclear weapons. The presence of a Russian nuclear-powered submarine in the region has prompted the deployment of American destroyers and ships to monitor its movements. These concurrent developments, the nuclear drills, the deployment of warheads in Kaliningrad, and the naval exercises in the Caribbean paint a concerning picture of Russia's willingness to escalate tensions and project its military might on multiple fronts. As the conflict in Ukraine shows no signs of abating, Moscow's actions raise the spectre of a broader confrontation with the West, one that could potentially spiral into a nuclear standoff reminiscent of the Cold War era. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And to take this further, Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, an international affairs analyst, author and historian, is joining us live from Brussels. Dr. Doctorow, good to see you. Russia has launched the second phase of nuclear drills, showcasing its readiness to employ tactical nuclear weapons. Should the West, Europe, or the Baltics be worried or alarmed?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that I'm an historian. I'm an historian by training. I got my doctorate in history. And one of the key issues in history is causation. That is, who started it, and not just how things ended up, but how they started. And since you mentioned the Baltics, I'll also bring them into play, because if you ask any of the people in Estonia or Latvia or Lithuania when history began, they all know that history began in 1939 with the Ribbentrop-Molotov Treaty, which ended their independence when Russia took them over. They failed to remember that their participation in the Russian Empire went back to Peter the Great in the 1710s and 20s, when by dynastic marriage or conquest, these countries all became part of the Russian Empire. That part of history they don't talk about. So when you say that the Russians are now making moves that are threatening and that are escalating, I ask, where did it start? Did it start with the Russians escalating, or did it start with the West escalating? And from the Russian perspective, the latter is the case. The latest Russian moves, in particular, your mention of the dispatch of these 3 warships, or 2 warships and a submarine, that will be part of a task force for exercises in the Caribbean basin in the summer. Mm-hmm. That has, as part of a Russian coordinated response to what they saw as very belligerent language coming from Western Europe last week, or the week before last. What I have in mind is the announcement by the United States, by France, Germany, Sweden, United Kingdom, that they gave permission, all these countries are giving permission to Kiev to use the missiles and other advanced technology that they have supplied to attack the Russian heartland. That set off a lot of alarms in Russia. These weapons can reach very close to Moscow. They can destroy most anything. The Russians have a 90% success rate or 95% success rate in stopping missiles, but that's not 100%. Nobody has 100%. So some of these could get through and it could cause enormous damage. So the Russian response to that came very quickly.
Doctor, what could be on Putin's mind when he dispatches what you mentioned there, the naval group, including a nuclear-powered submarine and a frigate, to the Caribbean, very quickly?
He's saying that the enemies of our enemy are our friends. That's an old logic in international affairs, and he's bringing it up to date. Cuba has become, once again, a very close ally of Russia. They receive substantial assistance now with hydrocarbons from Russia to keep their economy going. And the good old days from before 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union have returned in Russian-Cuban relations. They're not the only friends that Russia has in the area. One can mention Bolivia, one can mention Nicaragua, Venezuela. The point is that Mr. Putin is saying, if you, United States, are putting missiles that are 10, 15, 20 minutes flying distance, flying time from Moscow or Petersburg, we can play the same game. We can put missiles, these hypersonic missiles, maybe from the Caribbean basin to Washington, have a 5 or 10 minute flight time. So that leaves no time for response, and they are unstoppable. For these reasons, Mr. Putin is reading a message. The message is a warning to the United States in particular. Watch what you say, watch what you do, because we have a response to every threat you're making to us.
All right, I've been talking to Dr. Gilbert Doctorow. Thank you very much for talking to us, Doctor.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.